Growing up with a mom that by 8 was declaring either you would leave her or she would leave you only made the weight of my father's sporadic, chaotic presence feel like a random tornado set from my own personal Oklahoma. In perspective, this normal was really bad. My father only appeared to cause damage, which made his delayed presence feel more like periods of safety rather than actual abandonment. Meanwhile, my mother hated herself so much she projected it onto me, and I spent most of my childhood trying to convince her we should both stay in this relationship. It was a Tuesday night, and I had begun my latest fade out with my latest ex, unbeknownst to him. In perspective, this is a toxic trait, presuming that fading out a narcissist is better than confronting them, at least for your own personal health. Yet it is a precaution. Growing up, my parents embodied two forms of narcissism: the mother that always placed herself in losing situations, but somehow called you a loser, versus the father that consumed everything, from people's soul to their wallets and cocaine, but convinced himself he was a pastor for moral moderation. When these two people are the ones raising you to talk, it's no surprise you end up on mute. They never heard me beyond their narrative, and my latest ex followed their tutelage like a baby Padawan for a Sith Lord. He was particularly loving that day, holding my hand, which is a weakness, as you know, and putting his arm over me as if to keep me close and tight. In my childhood, affection was tricky. My mother never hugged me, and my father did, as he called me a dumb bitch. I've missed you, he smirked. These words were actually pretty common in my life, and for a while it made me feel important. Narcissists missed me. Huzzah! I could turn the heartless into yearning cuddle bears. Hooray! I had not yet realized I was a textbook trauma victim, feeling super empowered by how she can make the person unempowering her miss her by retreating for 2 week periods. Yeah, I nodded. My fade outs are complicated and probably slightly misleading. In order to avoid hurting my beloved narcissist's feelings, I do pick up their calls, but what was once 5 hour conversations is now 5 minutes. While they are allowed to physically hold me, like hugging, I no longer initiate. And I really just hang out with them because there's a difference to being figuratively alone versus actually. In my house, I was always in my room, my grandmother allowing me to watch soaps with her, but usually falling asleep and snoring like a cruise bullhorn in July. Meanwhile, my mother was so overwhelmed by work that she treated her home like the fortress of solitude, a place for her superhuman capacities to people please and resolve others' issues could finally be healed alone. Yet I felt their presence, and to my family, a felt presence was a sign that either A, you had a ghost in your home, or B, you had someone who could call 911 in case you were about to become one. How have you been? He smiled, almost pulling me to walk. The silence was deafening, but I liked being held. It had been weeks since I had felt human touch, and in an act of desperation and a reminder that I could get a hug if I requested one, I reached out for a coffee date. You see, that's the strange thing about loneliness. It makes you so scared no one will literally ever hold you that you ask for coffee with the one that made you feel like no one would ever literally hold you. How have you been? He asked again, almost forgetting he had just asked. Still good. I smiled and looked up at the beautiful sun. Nature was always a third party between me and my dad whenever we met. I would look at the sky in our strolls as he talked about himself and rambled through lies. I would marvel through the windows as he looked for another Rolex in the mall. My entire life, I had not simply faded out people as much as faded with them, which made physical touch feel like the only goal they could give me that I felt sad to lose. After all, we never really were together. Like my dad at a pancake house, within seconds, all food and drinks were down the hatch, and the reasons we were not talking were never talked about. Instead, we just exclaimed niceties like, "How are you?" And I stared at weather, knowing I was officially done because I was tired, too tired to even fight about our fighting. So instead, I let him hold me and ghosted him. All right, let's hear, let's talk. Let's discuss. Yeah, I was thinking about that because I really think I have overstayed in relationships. And I've said this a few times because of the physical aspect. There's something about being literally alone and, only hearing your own voice, only talking to you through past conversations, through present situations, through future goals. There's something about that that makes you a little stir crazy. and a little scared, like, is this going to be forever? Is somebody going to come in? Somebody has to come in, right? And I think my father had multiple families and kids because there was this fear in him of being alone, of being absolutely abandoned, and nobody coming to the funeral or his hospice bed to cry over him. And it, yeah, like, but he also did a lot of damage. The flip side was, yeah, like it was just like I think my family attributed presence, like physical presence, as if anything goes down, at least I have somebody to call 911. So it really was like just this emergency contact mentality. I just need somebody if a zombie apocalypse hits and I need somebody to just text me, "Hey, don't eat mushrooms." Hashtag the Last of Us joke. Um, I just need that. And my mother had kind of the same mentality of, I think she was just so deeply, deeply controlling. And even though she kind of treated me out of sight, out of mind, like, go play in your room, make yourself disappear. I don't have time. I'm tired. I'm sick. I just had to deal with this person at work. I think she liked knowing if anything went down, I was in a bedroom, my grandmother was in a bedroom, like people were there. Especially she grew up so sick. So it does make kind of sense to just want somebody literally around. But it's this weird thing because they proved to me presence doesn't matter spiritually, emotionally, or mentally if you're with somebody who doesn't like you. If you were with somebody that doesn't want to be with you. And they didn't want to be with me. That part of why when I would get a good Yelp review as a child was that I knew how to be invisible. I knew how to be disappeared. It was either I was really funny or I was so like respectfully quiet I looked like a mannequin. And I got praised for that. So a lot of me now is trying to balance that yo-yo of how quiet do I need to be? How funny do I need to be to take up space, to protect my space? And that's really hard to figure out when sometimes you just want a hug. It sounds so basic, but you could go weeks, months even, without somebody hugging you, without somebody touching you or saying hi. And particularly somebody that knows you or recognizes you. I'm not just talking the Starbucks barista. And I texted him, and it's something that if you listen to Daddy Recovery, I've done that before. And I it was, there is a lot of repetition in my life because patterns repeat and you got to catch them. And it was that same kind of, if you heard Pancakes, the episode Pancakes, that same kind of dynamic of I'm in front of this person who hates me, who doesn't respect me, and just wants me to call their hatred and disrespecting of me love because then they'll feel bad. And in exchange, I might get a handhold or they might pay for the pancake because they paid for the coffee. And it really is that dynamic of kind of just making sure that somebody out there knows you exist and you're alive. And in case anything goes down, might just call 911. It's that emergency contact mentality. And I use it particularly when I just need to remember somebody would hug me, even if that somebody is the very person that stabbed me in the back. Check out daddyrecovery.com and check out Hardin on all music platforms.